Chaim Levracha. Standing in the Chodesh Kislev. We had Rosh Chodesh Kislev, Beis Kislev, and next week we have Tes Kislev, Tes Yud Kislev. Chassidish month, many Chassidish Yom Tovim during the month. And there's also Parshas Toldus, and Parshas Toldus has its lessons, very important lessons, very timely lessons, and so. Parshas Toldus, first of all, the fundamental lessons of Toldus in general is the Avodah of Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak Avinu, Avram Avinu, in a certain sense, is a personality that's easier, it would seem, to learn from, right? Avram was the one that went out, he opened up Chabad houses, he spread the word. Yitzchak Avinu is not so much a Torah says about him. He was sitting at home, he was at the end of his life for many years, for over 50 years, he couldn't see. Right, he was confined to his house, and what does the Torah say much about him? A few stories, digging wells. Avimelech had a Yaakov. On the other hand, again, there's many stories, a lot of things to learn. But there's a very, very powerful lesson regarding Yitzchak. And Chassidus explains that Yitzchak, the Parsha Toldus means to have children. Children means not just physical, biological children, but in Torah, a person's students are his children. In order for a person to have offspring, to cause someone to be like you, to be able to affect someone, to give birth to someone, to create someone's spiritual personality, Yitzchak did that more than Avram did that. Why? So Chassidus explains, Avram's Avodah was he went around and spread the word. He's lowering himself to Arabs, to everyone, right? He doesn't care who he's talking to. Whoever it is, he has to know about the Eibishter. So it's like a hit and run, like you're going on mitzvah, right? It's very important. It's amazing. It's an unlimited thing. One mitzvah could do great things. One mitzvah is yichud nitzchi, eternal unification that Jew has with the Eibishter, and it has everlasting effects. But the avodah of Avram wasn't that person should become completely transformed. Yitzchak, on the other hand, he didn't run around the world. He stayed in his place. But his avodah was the people that he came to him. He worked with them in a way that he revealed their inner potential to the extent that they themselves became Oivdei Hashem, became people that served Eibishter in a way that they were similar to Yitzchak himself. Avram affected many people. The people always remained much lower than him. He went down to them. His avodah was to bring godliness down to people who are on a lower level. His avodah wasn't to change them, transform them completely. Yitzchak's avodah is halah, to elevate person. That's the idea of digging wells. Chassidus says the idea of a digging well, there's two ways you could have water. You could either dig a pit and pour water in, have a reservoir of water coming from somewhere else, or digging a well means that you believe that there's water hidden down deep down under the earth. The only thing is it depends on how much patience you have, how much work are you ready to put in to reveal the water that's concealed at the bottom of the earth. So Yitzchak, he dug into a person. He didn't just sit there chazering a word and going weiter. He dug into a person, revealing his inner core. So much so that Yitzchak saw the potential in Esav, right? Somebody else. Why did Yitzchak want to give the brachas to Esav? So simply, according to Pshat, Yitzchak wasn't aware exactly who Esav was. It's a little hard to understand that, obviously, according to Chassidus. No understanding who Yitzchak was, was on a level like Yitzchak to say that Esav was really able to fool him. But the idea was that Esav had a very, very great potential. How great as his potential was, at the same time, he had a big problem fulfilling his potential. That's a separate story. But Yitzchak perceived him at the level of his potential. So Yitzchak wants to bless him. He figures that through his brachas, he will reveal the potential in Esav. Esav is a murderer, a gazlan, a noyef, whatever you want to call him. But Yitzchak sees his potential and he's ready to give him the brachas to reveal the potential. So that is the avodah of Yitzchak. Yitzchak looks at a person and he sees his potential. He's not just there, to tell him a word, to make him say, do a mitzvah, get him to say a bracha and go further. Yitzchak wants to dig into the person should completely transform himself. So that specifically, Yitzchak is the one that's able to affect people in a way that they are told us, they are considered his children, they're similar to him. So first of all, the lesson is very, very important, that it's, how you look at people, that's usually how people will end up being. Okay, Esav, whatever, Chassidus explains that in the case of Esav, Yitzchak's cheshbon wasn't right. He had to give the brachas. Yaakov had to elevate Esav, it's a separate discussion. But in general, depending how you look on a person, that's how he will end up. If you look at a person, you look at his appearance, and you see that he does this and that and the third thing, and you spend 5 minutes with him, and you don't feel there's anything there to really work with. So you say, fine, it's okay, I'll be nice to him, whatever it is, but I take a fun. I'm not gonna go much deeper. Yitzchak, on the other hand, teaches us that if you see a person that has potential, right, like you're dealing with kids, or with adults, anyone, right? It depends how you look at them. Do you look at them as someone that really has the potential to do such and such and such? You need a lot of perseverance, need a lot of wisdom, need a lot of guidance, need a lot of, most particularly, need a lot of nurturing and love and patience many times until you reveal it, trying again and again and again and again. Then you'll be successful. So Yitzchak teaches he had a son like Esav. He didn't give up. He didn't say, on the contrary, he saw the potential in Esav, and Esav Taka had a great potential. Just he wasn't able to reveal it without Yaakov's help. When Mashiach will come, Esav will be able to reveal his potential. That's the first thing. The other thing is a very important lesson. We also have Yaakov and Esav. Yaakov and Esav is the eternal struggle until the coming of Mashiach between the good and bad, the Jews and the non-Jews, right? The whole thing that the fighting in Rivka's womb, and the fighting continues ever after. How does the Torah describe the difference between Yaakov and Esav? The Torah doesn't say clearly that Esav killed people, it alludes to it, or whatever. How does the Torah describe the difference? Very powerful words if you look at it. The Torah says that Esav was the Yedei Tzayid Ish Sada. Esav was a man of the field that knew how to hunt, which also means he knew how to, simply in Pshat, he knew how to fool people, he knew how to fool Yitzchak, he knew how to hunt Yitzchak, make him sound like he's very holy and pure when he really wasn't. And Yaakov was the Ish Tam. What does the Ish Tam mean? Ish Tam is the opposite of Yedei Tzayid, a very sincere person, a person that doesn't know how to be sly, he doesn't know how to be shrewd. Yoshiv Yeholim, he was sitting in the tents. He didn't run outside in the field like Esav, he was sitting in the tents of Torah. So when I think about it, it reminds me of a story, a very powerful story. There was a certain Yid who served officially in the position of a Reform rabbi for many years. His name was Herbert Weiner. He wrote a book, 9.5 Mystics, whatever it is. He had an interview on the Living Torah, Gemma's interview. It's his famous word that he was printed already, but they have it on video as well. Yeah, the Rebbe had a long-lasting relationship with the Rebbe, and whatever, the Rebbe encouraged him to be through him, and whatever. I don't want to get into the whole story, but at any rate, he tells the Rebbe, he was discussing with the Rebbe, he wanted to be open with the Rebbe about his feelings towards Yiddishkeit and Chassidim and so on and so forth. So he tells the Rebbe that one of the things that bothers him, that makes him, feel a certain distance when speaking to Lubavitchers, is he says, when you look at their eyes, he says they look a lot of them, I don't know what the right word is in English, like a very sheepish, like naive. They have that look like, they don't know what's going on. So the Rebbe explained to him, the Rebbe said, what the issue here, whatever, exactly, the Rebbe's word says, you don't see the split that's in their eyes. He says, when you speak to other people, it's not like you're noticing great wisdom or great understanding of life in their eyes. What you're noticing is, it's not that they lost a certain purity. They're living in two worlds. Deep down, they know that the truth is so and so and so. But the world says otherwise, but society says otherwise, but for whatever reason I have to behave otherwise. So what you're seeing in their eyes, what you're interpreting as, I don't know what you want to call it, being advanced, being enlightened, is really, what you're seeing is a split. People that are simple, it's not that they're naive, it's just they're wholesome, they're optimistic. So, and this is one of the hallmarks in general, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with, and everyone in his Avodas Hashem has the same struggle in one way or another. As a person could either be pure and authentic, like the way just to put it in simple English, a lot of people, the way he was a kid, or a Bachar in Yeshiva, when he looked at life in a very, one-dimensional way, maybe very, very pure and naive. Or you look at it, you went through different things, and you've seen different faces to mankind, and different things in the world, and things aren't as black and white as you thought that they were. And you start developing a approach where you start juggling between what I really, my tmimustikkeit, my hidden true, feeling of what's pure and authentic, and every person still retains that to some degree. It comes out at certain times at least. Versus, some people feel they have to sacrifice being pure in order to be popular. They have to sacrifice their authenticity in order to go with the times, whatever it is. And it's a very, very deep struggle. It's if you think about it, a lot of people that they hesitate. As many people you had Jewish people that during, whatever it was, American Jewry, that they didn't want, the last thing that they wanted was that their child should come home one day and say that I'm becoming religious. They didn't care, even if their children was ready to marry a non-Jew, which even in those years was not accepted. Fine, but one thing, b'shumai finish, don't come back and become a religious Jew. You're being a fanatic. That's the worst fear was that they should be those naive, primitive creatures from before the Stone Age. And this is a struggle that, by many people, there's a certain perception. Why is that? Because what it really is, in a certain sense, because Yiddishkeit at its core is being honest, is being pure, has nothing to do with worldly incentives, and you're not dear Esav. He was out in the field. He knew how to make a kill. He knew how to slide people, how to make a buck, how to get popular. Judaism is a different kettle of fish, and somebody that doesn't, if you don't appreciate it, then it's very hard to to like it. So this is the same thing as you had the Chodesh Kislev is the union of Chanukah. What happened by Chanukah was the same thing. The Chashmonoim, what they did made no sense. It wasn't popular. There was no way they would win, and people thought they were crazy. You have a few Jewish fanatics, few guys from Meir Shodim that they're making an army together, and they're gonna fight the Greeks. A bunch of religious fanatics, the worst type of creatures that ever existed on planet Earth. But by the Chashmonoim, it was be'emes. They believed with Amunah Pshuta that this is what the Eibishter wants them to do, and this is what has to be done, and they persevered. So Yiddishkeit is something which is it's not based on worldly endeavors. It's not based on, the worldly outlook clashes very strongly with the purity, with the authenticity of Yiddishkeit. And in Avodas Hashem, we all have the same thing. A lot of, every person wants to accomplish something. He wants to be, he wants to, whatever it is. He can't just be a plain, simple Jew. He has to be a Iber Chacham. He has to be able to prove that he's able, whatever it is. So the Nukud is that Yaakov is the midah of emes. Yaakov is the midah of truth. Yaakov is sincerity. And sincerity is something which is eternal. Esav, Esav didn't last. Yaakov Avinu loy meis. Meaning the power of the eternity of the Jewish people is the midah of Yaakov, of truth, of sincerity. And this is also connects with Chodesh Kislev. What's Chodesh Kislev? Chodesh Kislev, what does Chassidus tell a person? Chassidus tells a person that, you're looking at the world, but don't look at the world through the eyes of the world. Look at the world through the eyes of Chassidus. There was, during the Rebbe Rashab's times, there was a certain Jew who was known as Achad Ha'am. That was his penning. He was amongst the free thinkers of his generation. He didn't believe in anything, or at least he claimed so. And he came to meet with the Rebbe Rashab. And after the end of the meeting, the way the story goes is that they say that the Rebbe Rashab said about him that he's so sunk in the klippos that even if he were to witness Kriyas Yamtov with his own two eyes, he wouldn't accept that it's a miracle. He would say that it's a wind that blew, a high tide, a low tide, whatever it is, that's what happened. What he said about the Rebbe Rashab, he rephrased the term that the Chachamim say. He said, "Yideya sa'olam mechaven limrid boy." The Chachamim is a term about Amalek that he knows the Eibishter and he wants to rebel against him. So he said, the Zachadam said about the Rebbe Rashab, he knows the world, but he wants to rebel against it. Right? Not that the Rebbe Rashab was naive, he didn't know what's going on. He realized the Rebbe Rashab knows exactly what's going on, but he B'davka wants to go against it. So Chassidus gives a Yid the ability that, Chassidus is the idea of the purity of the neshama. It's not, doesn't allow a person to accept the notion that Torah has to change, that times change, that Yiddishkeit changes. And this is what Chassidus gives a person, the thing. So that's the Nekuda. The Nekuda is that the person has to be Tom, he has to be sincere, wholesome. Tom also means you're complete. Somebody that's sincere, he doesn't change. Chassidus says the biggest maskil, the biggest, somebody that, he understands a lot, he has great emotions, he fluctuates. Some days he's on a higher level of Avodas Hashem, some days he's on a low, some days he's more, some days, the struggle with his Yetzer Hara is more intense, sometimes less. But a person that's sincere, he doesn't change. He's wholesome, he's real, he's authentic. And this is what we learn from Yaakov, that's the secret of the survival of the Jewish people. So anyway, so this is the Nekuda. The Dikir is that the Chassidus speaks a lot in the Chassidish Parsha and Torah that Yitzchak is connected with the future redemption, because Yitzchak means tzchok v'tainuk, pleasure, and the whole struggle of Yaakov and Esav that is there now. When Mashiach will come, we'll see the great pleasure that brought about L'mayla and the great reward that we'll get from as a result of it. And the main thing is that we should have the revelation of Mashiach, we should have the meaning of Yitzchak, the laughter, the joy. Azimol Yitzchak Pino will have complete joy, complete laughter, and Esav will also be elevated. Zayin, take it from Yad Mamish.
Amen.